Welcome to the Pipeline Profits Podcast. If this is your first episode, welcome. If you've been here before, then welcome back. Today, we have an awesome show for you. We're going to do something a little bit different. Today, we have a guest that's going to be able to talk to you guys about AI, your CRM, being in two different markets. So we've got a killer guest for you today. Ryan, tell them a little bit about our guest.
Today's guest has been in the real estate industry for over 15 years. He was the first Toronto-based realtor to really start a strong team that was able to do business in a secondary market in cottage country. He is the managing partner and co-founder of the Muskoka office of his brand. He is now the VP of sales for PSR Brokerage, which is going to give it away. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Joshua Chisvin.
Hey guys, thanks for having me
on. Welcome to the show. We are super stoked to have you. We've got a lot to unpack, I feel like, with you.
Yeah, hopefully we can do it in 45 minutes.
Oh, we're going to do it in 45 minutes. We're going to hit you with just like fire round questions here. I want to start. I mean, 15 years in the industry is a good feat. Very few people are able to make it past 3. So what were the first couple years? I mean, rewinding the clock 15 years ago, Ryan and I have both been about 10. So what did those earlier 5 years look like for you? What was the market? What were some of the challenges that you had when you first entered? And then why did you also get into real estate in the first place?
They were different, very different than they are now, right? So this was, I know you mentioned on the intro AI, before social media, before anything was big. I always joke with realtors in my office, like my first few years in the business, our big thing was text status updates on Facebook to show our production rather than like a just sold picture. But no, to backtrack, like I said, I've been in the business just about 15 years. I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit. I had a business that I had kind of sold and closed out just before I got my real estate license. And then was sitting there and more or less had like nothing to do. I was like, I'll try this one out. Got my real estate license, did my first transaction, which was actually a property that I bought with a buddy that we lived in, fell in love with the whole side of it, from the sales to the touring. From there, I was like, okay, this is something I'm going to focus on. I went back to night school to George Brown to do residential home construction so that I could actually understand what I'm selling. I think there's a big gap in the market right now where realtors don't understand necessarily how property or a home works. And then kind of just jumped off from there. The first 5 years were interesting. I was in my early 20s. So a lot of my friends were coming out of university. So like my business was really built on doing a ton of leases in the first few years. And then even at that point, a lot of people had co-signers, like no income really yet or first job. So then I got to connect with their parents, push that into the sales side and grew from there.
Amazing.
So obviously it was challenging getting into the business so young. What was the most difficult thing to overcome as someone in your early 20s trying to help people buy their most expensive possession or make their biggest purchase? What was the most challenging thing in getting people to trust that you were going to be able to give them the right advice to help them make the right decision?
That's a great question. I mean, I think a lot of people, they say age, right? But it wasn't really my age. It was credibility. It was getting that first test run to be like, okay, you can do this. And then once I showed my skill set and we actually showed what we could do as a team, then it was a little bit smoother sailing, right? And that didn't really shift because I don't see a difference from when I get into the business from when I'm 21 to really when I'm 24 years old outside of experience in the industry. So really that was kind of the first hurdle. I did it by grinding and kind of like having no shame. I asked for help. I got in front of clients with other realtors, asked to shadow them. The business was a little bit different or very different than it is now. So you didn't get all of the exposure through social media. You didn't have the opportunity to put yourself out to so many people in such a quick moment. So a lot of it was really like, cold calling, door knocking, the traditional stuff, but then asking people for a chance. I had a mentor that was outside of real estate that always said to me since I was, a little kid, always ask, because the worst case scenario you get is a no. But if you don't ask, you're starting with a no, right? So I really took that to heart in everything I've done in life. And that was my first thing where I would just ask people like, hey, give me a shot. And some people I got the flat out no. Some people were like, well, we'll see how it goes. Give me a few months. Some people were the clients we love, like, well, for the right commission, I'll give you a shot, like, right? And then my first listing I got was actually knocking on an expired listings door 7 times. It took me 7 times to go back before they finally gave me the, okay, we want you to list our house. And I'll never forget this. I don't think anybody forgets their first, but knock on their door 7 times. A few weeks later, I catch like the most horrific flu I've ever had. I'm like in bed under the sheets, sweating, cold, and my phone rings and I see who's calling and I like pick it up, like teeth chattering. Like, yeah, we want you to list our house. And I have to all of a sudden, yeah, I'm feeling great, jump into that, whatever, and go from there. But that was really it. And then once we put out our first few listings and kind of were able to show that we're legitimate, it took off.
I have a question for you about you said like there's a big difference from when I got started to agents that are getting started today. They've got, social media. It's just a different way of, client acquisition looks a lot different in 2024 than Absolutely. It did in, 2010, let's say, right? Blessing or curse for you to have started with no social media?
Both.
Like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the obvious, like there is a blessing and always a good side to it because our exposure is tenfold. I can now post something on social. I can send out like an e-blast newsletter that's a lot more interactive and hit a lot more people. I don't want to say with less effort, but less time taken, where traditionally it was a lot more one-on-one when you're prospecting. And previously, a lot of the way I did it was like hard copy newsletters. Like
okay, cool.
I have a big thing. I did hard copy newsletters. I'll give a shout out to Dave Greenspan. Like Mindshare did a ton of work with them. They're like awesome over there. They were the first ones to get us going. And speaking from like social media, where you get these viral campaigns, my first viral campaign was all of my buddies barbecuing my newsletter and like making a joke out of it and then posting that on Facebook. And I still get the memories now, like 12, 14 years later. But to go back to blessing or curse, I think it's kind of both, right? I think the social media side where you get a lot of exposure, I don't want to call realtors lazy, but it's allowed you to become a little bit lazier. Like I put this post out, I put this video out, 2,000 people saw my reel, my job is done. But how authentic is that? Like how much interaction are you really getting? Where before social media, we were forced to really have real conversations, get in front of people, pick up the phone. So I might have hit a lot less eyes or a lot less viewers, but I found that the conversations were a little bit more real. And then, the other side now is every realtor's on social. So even when you're not prospecting, if you know 5 people, 5 realtors. And so your social media is filled with that. So you get a lot more like scan and flip over, where traditionally you got a mailer, you got something from your realtor. You're like, oh, what is this? There might be valuable information here. So I think that's kind of where it's been, and it's got its pros and cons. Personally, I liked it before social media, if I could put it out there. Was just more my speed, my style. But yeah, now we're forced to keep up.
So going back to the old school before social media, I'm the same as you. I put off, I didn't get an Instagram account till I think COVID.
Right.
Going back to the old school, obviously you had a lot of success with your newsletter, your old hard copy newsletter. And it sounds like you kind of tried everything to break into the business being so young. Was there one form of lead generation or prospecting that you absolutely fucking hated? Like that, like you knew you had to do it because you were like, hey, I'm in my early 20s. I got to try everything, but I want to kill myself every time I think about it.
It was the fucking door knocking, right?
Yeah.
So to backtrack, like, yeah, I mean, I had a business where we did door-to-door sales and whatever, and like been through all of that, but like just the door knocking, because like I know there are realtors that are super successful with this method that have skill set in this area well beyond what I do, and shout out to them. But like to bother people at 6 o'clock on their front door, I was just like, I would walk up before I knock and be like, what kind of asshole are you? Right. But before social too, there was no real way to do it. I put out a listing on the street. I want all the neighbors to know, I want their friends and family. Like, this is what you got to do. Right. And I even remember one day, like door knocking was just like my Forest Hill flyers and all my printed out materials, and just, it is what it is, right? But that was the one that really just got me, because somebody could always like decide not to pick up the phone, but when you're at that front door, it's like, dude,
I don't. Well, that's so also the blessing and curse of door knocking, though, right? Is like it's a blue ocean. Nobody else does it. Every fucking agent's on social media. The social media thing has made it way easier for people to be like, real estate licenses look enticing because all I have to do is fucking dance and post some videos and get some clients.
And
right?
I haven't had anybody knock on my door in a long time, but I could tell you 5-10 years ago at 6:00, you're getting 4 realtors every day,
Sure.
right? They're like waiting to hit the street.
But you know what? I'm happy that you brought this newsletter thing up. Sorry, Ryan, I don't mean to cut you off. I want to stay here for 1 second because I got a lot of buddies outside of the real estate industry. Newsletters are making a huge comeback. I'm not sure if you guys have.
So is door knocking.
Yeah, so all of it.
Totally. But just in general, from a marketing perspective, outside of the real estate industry, because these newsletters are getting sold for like multiple millions of dollars right now. So the thing is, a bunch of people are building these newsletters, but the physical newsletters are coming back in a big way because, like you said, it's like you get these just sold, just listed postcards in the mail, right? But when you get a newsletter from somebody, it's like on a nice, nice paper and it's folded up and you get it once a month and there's actually good value. Nobody else is doing that either.
I read Mark Arnstein's newsletter. He spams my house all the time, right? And I get flyers every day, but his is the one that's folded. And I'm always like, what's Mark have to say? And I even as a realtor, I read it, right? So I agree with you. I think newsletters are getting a little bit more interactive too. Like, not like QR codes are new, but you can jump off from a lot of stuff that we weren't able to do before. And one of the issues is like, even my Gmail now will filter my spam for me and not a traditional spam folder. You get that promotion folder at the top. So it's all the realtor newsletters are getting kicked to promotion from eBlast where I don't even have to really look at them, let alone like mark it as read. Right. So when I'm getting that in front of my face, something that we do a lot with our team is I'm going to give away a secret, but rather than a flyer, a door hanger, just because somebody's got to actually take that off their door and throw it out. So in that 10 seconds, walking the recycling bin, they're getting exposed to your brand. If you're the middle flyer and they just grab their junk mail, like, who knows what your odds are getting seen.
Seeing as you hated door knocking so much, I do truly think that it's making a comeback, especially if you leverage things like QR codes and giveaways and do some different stuff to change it up a bit. Do you get your team members to door knock, even though you hate it so much?
A little bit. Like we do it more rather than cold door knocking. We'll do it when we either have a listing on a street or we need a home on that street. I'm working with a couple of buyers right now that they're just like, hey, we want to be on one of 3 streets. Like that's really where we want to be. We want to be with the same friends in our neighborhood and all of that stuff. And as much as 10 streets over might be a beautiful home, we're just not interested. So yeah, we hit those streets, every so often, depending on what our relationship has been with the person that's answered the door, and we work through it. So it's more for us, we're, I guess, like organized door knocking or door knocking with an end goal rather than just trying to farm listings. But yeah, we're getting back into it, and I'd say doing more now than I'll call it 5 years ago because nobody really did a ton of it during COVID.
And I imagine that like going in with an end goal in mind, with a real objective, probably makes the reluctance to actually go and knock the door a heck of a lot easier for your guys because they don't. It's like I'm going there because I know exactly what I'm trying to get out of this.
You're not full of shit, right?
Totally. So what is that the like small lever, the small hinge that swung the big door to get you guys back out door knocking is like having that objective?
I think so. And that's in everything that we do. I think in all of our marketing, even when we're in our CRM, like we'll get to it, but we're a big CRM team. When we go out with a purpose, like, hey, we have this great opportunity we believe in, or we know you own this property and we actually have a legitimate buyer, it makes it way easier than just casting that net and hoping somebody jumps, right? I know when we were talking before, you guys asked about funny stories and things like that, but I won't put it on blast. I'll text you the video after. But like one of my favorite real estate stories on door knocking, and this is why we do it with a purpose, is I have a listing on the market. My sign is in the lawn. And everybody's got a Ring camera. So my clients get a knock on their door. And it's, hey, like I'm so-and-so realtor from so place, have a buyer be interested in your house. Have you guys ever thought about selling? And my client's like, no, my house is on MLS. It's for sale. And the guy's like, oh, really? He's like, you just walk by the sign in the front lawn. But if you have a buyer, come on in. And the guy's like, well, maybe I'll come, and just walked away, right? Because there's no real buyer. They're just trying to come with that line of like, oh, I might have somebody, but do you want to go to market? And I think, when you're going out with that mentality, it's a lot harder on yourself, let alone to translate that genuine value to the person on the other side of the door, right? Like you need to believe in what you're doing and believe in yourself. Otherwise, everybody can read that.
Yeah, if you're going into it knowing you're going to tell lies, it makes it like really difficult for you to like knock on those doors. That's why, with the agents that we work with, I'm always like, think of some sort of value that you can offer these people so that they're not annoyed with you when they open the door. If you're door knocking a neighborhood and you don't have a buyer or you don't have a listing, let's get creative and think of some value, something with intrinsic value that they could want from you and benefit from, that even if they say they don't want it, you feel good about it because you're offering them something as value. And I think you even said that when you answered our questions, is like, bringing value to people is such an important piece that I think agents have forgotten about because of the Instagram, social media culture, that like our value has become like who can do a better dance, or like,
I almost find the value
who can hop on the next big trend.
Who can have a bigger audience of realtors rather than like really genuinely translating that to clients, right? And I mean, even if you're not so creative, like we'll knock on a door and say, hey, we sold a house in the area, we listed one, like we just want to be a resource. We just want to introduce ourselves. I don't have a buyer for your house. I'm not looking to put your house on MLS. I work in the area. I live in the area. I'd love to be a resource. Everybody wants a resource in real estate that they can pick up the phone, call, ask a question, and not worried about getting harassed to buy or sell something at the end of it. And that's who we are. And so if you want information, if you want to know about another listing in the area, if you want anything without getting that crazy spamming fallback, we're here for you. And how many times that resonates with people and we get that call, or we end up getting that person into our CRM, and 2, 3, 4 years later, they do a deal with us because we've started the relationship on being genuine, offering value, and not bullshitting a fake buyer to get in the door. Like it's night and day.
Oh, I love that you mentioned that, because obviously, we do sales training, right? And everybody wants these like, oh, what's the best hack? What are the best words? What are these magic words that I should say? Right? And you're like, hey, you know what the easiest way to get a sale is? Believe in the fucking thing that you're selling. Because if you believe in it, that's gonna resonate. If you think that what you're selling is like snake oil BS, and by the way, I'm not blaming agents, because like, let's bring it back to the beginning of the conversation. You're like, I'm in my early 20s. Everybody's telling me this is what the fuck I'm supposed to do. So I go out and do it, but like, I don't love it. I don't believe in it. It doesn't resonate with me, but everybody else keeps telling me it's what I should do.
And how much course training did you get on being a human versus like, stuff that none of it was real sales training. It's like, at least when I did it, it was you passed your 3 courses. So congrats, you got over 70% on 150 multiple choice questions. Go deal with people's biggest assets. And I remember walking into my first brokerage, right? Sitting down at like when we had computer bays in the brokerage, and be like, I don't even know how to log into MLS. This is insane, right? But in the same day, I'm like sending out, I'm an agent letter and all this stuff. And it's pretty crazy. So I bring it back to like, not even at the brokerage level, a lot of our education and training. And so you kind of lead people down a path to not feel confident in their own skill set. So the only thing they're going to translate is bullshit, right? Yep. But if you start to make people confident in their own skin, then it changes the game. And even when we do templates or scripts or whatever you want to call it in our sales training, the first and last thing I always say is take what I've done and rewrite it in your own words, because your network and your database is going to know your voice, and they're going to know when this is somebody else's. It's like the Chat GPT in real time, right? It's like if you take my template, everybody's reading it with a gray bar copied and pasted behind it, right? They know it's not you. So you can take the ideas, but yeah.
I love it, man. I want to ask you something about
I think that's so true, because...
Sorry, I want to ask you about you were talking about property stuff, right? Like agents not knowing enough about houses. So it's like we all want to know sales and marketing skills, but you're saying like agents don't actually understand
we did that training
what they're
recently.
selling.
We called it the anatomy of a home.
Okay, I love it.
To walk in and people are like, so how does this HVAC, how does forced air work? And
So where, for you, obviously you're doing like agent development and stuff like that within the brokerage. Where does that fall in? Like, you're like, okay, I'm building out this training course for these agents. I know it's an important part of their education or their knowledge. Are you teaching them? Yeah. So early, like before, like marketing strategies and stuff, or are you like marketing strategies, anatomy of a home? Like, how does it fit?
Kind of the same time. Like, I think it's kind of a mixed bag, because when an agent hits the brokerage, whether they're new at PSR and they've been around for 5 or 10 years, or they're brand new to the business, they're kind of all over. Like, they want to absorb information, but they also want to get their name out there. They need to start making money, making a living, right? So we kind of do it early on, but at the same time. So as we're intro to CRM, intro to all of this stuff, like, focus on that here. And then on the other side, let's get you educated on what you're actually selling. And we have a pretty good handout or PDF that a lot of our agents will keep, stored on their phone, email, flagged in an email, whatever, so they can refer to it, because we don't expect you to know everything overnight. And as much as I went to night school for it, I'm not in trades. I'm not expected to have everything down to a T, but it gives you the bulk of it, roof systems, plumbing systems, electrical, HVAC, different types of materials, different building code, insulation, like all of that. So at least when you're in the home with a buyer or seller, you don't look like you have no idea what you're talking about. You can speak high level on it, and you can say, listen, like, this is how the basic function works. Your exact system, I'm not 100% about. Let's bring in an expert. Let's bring in a trade to verify. But at least I understand the gist of it versus I have no idea what you're talking. You know what I mean? There's a big difference. And so we put it.
Had you seen that done at any other brokerage you had been at in your career, or was it just purely from your night school experience being like, hey, I did this, no other agents are going to take the time to do it, so I'm going to give them the night school experience so that they're better for their clients?
It kind of comes from there. Like, I think it's the sentiment which you see at a lot of brokerages of, I did coursework outside of the brokerage, I'm now going to bring that back to the team, right? But I hadn't really seen this. Full disclosure, I've really only been at Forest Hill and PSR in my 15 years. I haven't jumped around. So between the two, when I was at Forest Hill, just training, everything we were doing was fantastic. It was a little bit different. It was like before 2015 when I joined PSR. But yeah, no, we hadn't really had any of that done. I think most training in the real estate world on the agent side is either sales or market stats and information, mortgages, things like that. But you kind of miss a key step there.
I could not agree with you more. And this has always been such a it's such a weird and unusual thing, because like you said, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a builder. You don't have to be a contractor, but like, you should have a pretty decent, baseline of knowledge. Like, this is how long your furnace should last you, so that when your agents come or your clients come through a house, they're freaking nervous. All right. They're already nervous about spending $500,000 on the house. And they're like, you know what they're thinking? They're not thinking, I'm so excited to buy this house. They're thinking, oh shit, how much is it going to cost me when the shit breaks in this house? And they ask you a question and you can't answer it. And they I don't want to say they necessarily lose all trust in you, but they're going to be a lot more nitpicky at the home inspection. They have a lot less confidence going into the home inspection, and you're not pre-framing the process to be a comfortable one for them if you're not taking at least a little bit of time to understand the basics.
Sometimes we don't even get to the home inspection. We just walk in and we know enough. Like, it's not even worth pursuing this one, right?
Right.
And so it saves them the $500 or $700.
For sure.
But I find it, I might get blasted for this. You almost need to know more about the house's built-in functions than you need to know about mortgages. Because when it comes to the financing side, like, how many realtors pass that off to the mortgage broker, which is fair. And something that I always tell our realtors, like, you are not mortgage brokers or lawyers, so you can speak high level, but don't give your advice, like, pass that on to the professionals, right? But the thing you're actually selling or advising on is the property. Like, a lot of clients come to you for advice on the mortgage because it's so connected to how to buy the property. But really, buying the property and getting your financing, as much as you need to know your affordability before you go into it, is the step after you've decided to move forward with it. And to decide to move forward with it, you need to know how it functions, what condition it's in, and so on, right? And it's kind of at the point where, like, I could probably do 95% of a home inspection myself with my knowledge base, but I'm not insured, I'm not certified, so I can speak to all that high level, but I'm bringing in our team inspector, and he's gonna take it over from there, just in case I miss something. But at least I can get to that point with my clients, right? And I find it's funny that, like, my number one thing clients come to me after the transaction is like, hey, we just had 3 contractors through. We'd love your opinion, because we build that trust and rapport. They see I'm genuine, because sometimes we'll walk them out of real estate. Say, like, it's a funny thing on our team where we built a reputation telling people not to buy real estate, so that when you walk into a property, like, this is actually a great fit, they believe you. They don't think you're trying to sell everything. So once you've done that step, you show your knowledge base. then you're maintaining that relationship beyond the transaction, which every realtor says they do, but how many actually do? Because when are they needed beyond that? And that's really where I find like huge value, and why, to go back, we do this construction or this build or this, how a property functions, the anatomy of a property training so early, because it really adds value at every step of the transaction.
Oh, and there's so many deals that fall apart as a result of it, right? And it's like, I think agents, I'm really happy that you brought this up. Thank you. If you're an agent and you're listening to this, if you actually wrote down all the reasons that your deals fall apart, every agent, they don't make that list. They think, oh, the financing didn't work, the house wasn't the right fit, it was over budget, et cetera, et cetera. But like, what's the percentage of deals that fall apart because the client didn't have confidence or comfort with the property itself? And could you have mitigated that when like, honestly, the house was probably fine.
You nailed it, right? Because also there's value when we get that home inspection. We can talk about it and be like, okay, this is a big problem. This is something the inspector has to flag, but is not a problem. The reason you don't have a railing on these 3 steps is because 40 years ago, that wasn't to code. Code has changed, but you don't have to update consistently to code, right? And they start to get a different perspective on it. The other thing where it's great to have a knowledge base is how many deals probably get blown up. Home inspection comes in, there's 5 points. Home inspector, they go to their guidebook and it says, well, this is 10 grand, but it's $3,500 to get done with trades, right?
Yeah.
And so the client goes back, the buyer, and like, holy shit, I have $100,000 on day one, when like 25,000 is getting that done. So then you have a lot more ammo to work buyer and seller to see like, where can we find a resolution here, where a lot of people might just go by what that guidebook says and freak out. It's kind of similar to like, pre-construction, not to jump off, but when people go into the design center and get sold on like countertops they can get for $2,500 for 10 grand, like it just makes more sense to do it yourself after the fact. And it creates a whole different vibe on the transaction, fees for everything. So that's like where, and how I've been talking about this for 10 minutes, it just helps on every part of the transaction.
I think it's important.
So
that we
obviously,
talk about this,
because obviously, like you do a great job at building product knowledge in all of the agents that come through PSR and go through the training, and you implemented this since you took over as the VP of sales. But outside of product knowledge, what do you think is like the number one tool that has led to your success in being able to build a team and being able to see success in 2 different marketplaces that are 2 hours away from each other? Is there like one skill, one tool, or like one thing that you've done that you see too many agents not pay attention to that you would attribute
100%.
a lot of your success to? And what would that be?
So one, you got to be super organized. Like if you want to talk about macro, you got to be super organized. And, if you have a partner, you got to have a partner that likes you not being home ever and on the road all the time, right? Because doing 2 hours each way in one day plus showings, like it, so shout out to my wife. But no, like my biggest thing, all jokes aside, CRM, like end all and be all. I use Follow Up Boss. You can use whatever you're comfortable with. Like there are a ton of great products out there, but CRM database, that's all I talk about at PSR till everybody's annoyed, because it's the one tool that will keep you organized. Like I said, what you need to do is be organized. It's the one tool that'll keep you organized, especially if you're in 2 markets. And then it's got, all the CRMs have so many integrations, you can expand from there. So really the core thing is keep your back end tight. We use Follow Up Boss and Monday.com for mostly everything. Follow Up Boss tracks all of our relationships. Monday.com tracks all of our current progress. So if I open up Monday.com right now, I can go into like 26 listings that are either on market coming soon or exclusive or whatever, it's ignore Tressa rules, but exclusive, and we can what stage they're all at, right? Like have the photos been done? Have the floor plans been done? Has the pre-inspect, and we can track all of that. And then CRM for relationships. And I think those 2 things is kind of what keeps me sane. I used to be like a notebook and Excel sheet and all of that. And, the cheesy line I always use at the brokerage, I probably left $500,000 to $1 million in commissions in the first 5-7 years of my business by not being organized with the CRM. And since we implemented it, it's just I can only attribute it to this because my business has gone night and day and grown exponentially.
What were the
I was going to say, were
features?
there any CRMs available when you first got into the business? What was out? Like, what was out there?
There
Follow Up
was.
Boss wasn't out there.
No, it was a lot of it was like integrated into the paper newsletters where you needed a place to put your addresses and names in so they got mailed out. But we're talking like Morris Marketing, Exact Contact, like really
Right.
going back. Dave Greenspan, like with
Fancy
Monster,
Excel,
they had a great one.
fancy Excel spreadsheets.
That's really what it was, right? Now I have like automations and functionality, and like I open this file and this happens, and as soon as we mark somebody sold, they go into our reporting so we can track how we did that. Like there's awesome integrations and tools now, but I think when it comes to the core of it, get a CRM, get it going. It's easy to say get a CRM, but then everybody logs into Follow Up Boss. They're like, okay, where do I start? Organization, having a game plan, using your CRM is something big. The third tool, which is like the most basic tool that everybody has access to that I use all the time, is my calendar, which is integrated to my Follow Up Boss and everything. And my most important meetings in my calendar are with myself, where I hold myself accountable, because it's easy to say like get in your CRM and then get distracted and not actually sit there and prospect. And then it's easy to sit there at your CRM and be like, where do I start? So I have meetings with myself in my calendar like I would with any client. With you guys, there's notes in that calendar invite of what I'm going to do. So when I sit down, I'm productive right away, and I keep accountable to myself. And then when we're in our CRM, like keep it organized, take advantage of the automation. I'll be the first one to tell you, especially if you've been in the business for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7+ years and you haven't used the CRM yet, the beginning sucks. Like getting it uploaded, getting everybody organized sucks. But once you start to realize how much easier your life is going to get and how much more money you're going to make because of that work that sucked, you're going to love it. And you're going to love organizing, and you're going to end up getting a high like off putting in new leads and things like that. So yeah, that would definitely, like, be organized, find your tools that work for you. And the last one is, don't try and start with 10 different tools. Start with 1 or 2. And then once you like nail those and you're comfortable and they're built into your habits and your routine, then expand. Because I think that's the common thing. There's so many now. We have like our CRM and our MailChimp and our whatever. Find one place that you can start and call home, and then go from there.
What were the features of Follow Up Boss? Like, why were you like, this is my one? We use Follow Up Boss too. But this isn't like a Follow Up Boss advertisement podcast. We just love it. It's made a massive impact on our business. So what were the main features that locked you into that CRM?
So one, I think kind of how you said, like everybody that actually uses Follow Up Boss, not just has a login for Follow Up Boss, but uses it, is like the biggest fan of Follow Up Boss, right? And they don't have to advertise because we're always like just, pouring the large cups of Kool-Aid for everybody.
Yeah.
But the first thing that attracted to me was I found it was like the first CRM that was really geared towards realtors, not you could be a realtor and all these other things. And then from there, they had a lot of like integrations to real estate products that, I think in Canada, we miss out on a little bit because we're just a smaller market, but they have a lot of stuff there. And then the biggest thing is, I don't really know many companies, let alone CRMs, that have support like they do. Like I email support, I get a response within the hour.
And training.
Do you want a video call? Do you want to get on a Zoom and I'll show you how to do it? Do you want me to set it up for you? And it's like, please sell me a higher subscription package and take more of my money because this is awesome, right? So that was really it. And then I think when you're in sales, there's always like a competitive edge to it, right? And the one thing I love about PSR and our team, not to gush about our own brokerage, is how like collaborative everybody is. And, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and how it doesn't matter who you are, everybody wants to prop you up. Like I love that about PSR. I've heard horror stories of like the brokerages where you have to lock your door at the end of the night because somebody's going to go in and look through your files and whatever, right? With that being said, there's still a little bit of a competitive edge in sales. Like we're all kind of have that in us, and that's why we're in sales. I love the leaderboard function on Follow Up Boss because it doesn't give away too much information, but it kind of tracks what everybody's doing, presents it to everybody, and you never want to be the bottom of your leaderboard in anything, right? So at the end of January this year, we're at the same interaction and work on Follow Up Boss that we were at the end of June of last year, which is pretty crazy, like for my team.
Amazing.
And now I find where I've always like paced everybody because I've been the one that's like, hey, this is what you got to do. Now I'm like, shit, I can't let the team get ahead of me in the CRM leaderboard. Like I better get back to work. And 15 years into the business, I'm now got like that bug again, and we're all excited. And it takes away that whole that whole kind of anxiety of where's the market at right now, of like selling snake, like we're just all excited to get into there and almost like beat each other, that, you know, we're pumping out a ton of information and content and doing the, you know, the basic tasks that a lot of people kind of skip over again.
Team leaders take note.
Oh,
like
100%.
I love the culture you've created around the leaderboard, because like I love the leaderboard in terms of like the information it gives me at a snapshot, but then there's also like the terror in me every time I go to look at the leaderboard of like who's actually doing the things.
Like 5:30 in the morning before I get my kid from bed. I'm like, wait, did Carly send out an email this morning? I got to book an appointment, get my 500 points real quick, right? Yeah, so it's funny, but it's also, the leaderboard has forced us to be better at what we do, because now that it's tracked, and now that it's tracked against your teammates, like, you know, where I might have before just thrown something into my calendar or sent an email off, like I'm now using Follow Up Boss more to set those core functions out, which has made it more my hub, which now once I'm already there, I'm doing all my, and it's just kind of created like a way better routine or habit structure for us.
You just brushed over like a super secret hack though, and I feel like no one caught that. We gotta like rewind the clock here.
Rewind, like Michael Scott.
There you go. Yeah, we're rewinding. You know what? You said about support. This is one of the biggest hacks. Is people have a ton of, like, we pay a shit ton for software. We all do. I'm sure you do. Everybody that's listening is fucking paying out the nose for software.
Yeah.
And they're like, I need to hire employees. And it's like, hey, how about this? You don't have any capacity to hire anybody. You need to make the juice worth the squeeze, get as much out of the money that you're spending on your software. And people overlook support on these software. And like you said, Follow Boss is amazing. They'll do a bunch of shit. It's real people.
It's also like, let me say that while we're talking about it, it's a real person. Like we have an actual account manager. She's phenomenal. Anything we need. We just kind of had a thing in the first few weeks of 2024 with our Muskoka office. Are we going to integrate like 14 agents into it? Are we going to let teams keep their individual thing? We jump back and forth all the time, and like nobody lost functionality. None of our clients felt the shift as we were trying to reorganize our back end, because support was, like, Allison was crazy in support. And now, like in my brain, it's funny when we talk about it, it's like she's part of our team. It's like, oh, well, we don't know. We'll just email out. Like, yeah, we got that, right? We have our back end staff and support and whatever. Yeah. And the value is at least a part-time admin like that. Absolutely. I'm getting, right? Which is $30K a year, $40K a year, like even part-time that I'm saving just on the support. So that's why, like, I use them a lot, right?
We just save people like tens of thousands of dollars from this hack. If you don't take this
hack, you got to put your Follow Boss referral code on the bottom.
For sure, there, right? Yeah. Whatever software is though, because you're 100% right. It's like, okay, we are like, shit, I need someone to run this software. I don't know how to do it. Then you're like, I'm gonna go hire someone. I got to put up the job posting. Then I hire the person. I got to pay them. Then I got to train them on how to do it. You know what support's already trained on? The fucking platform that they work for.
Like, and I'm not saying this like it's,
and they know it better than anyone. The staff you hire is never going to learn it that well.
Yeah, like I'm like, hey, like in my brain, this is how I want it to function. When I go to the automations, I'm not 100% sure if I'm doing it, and I'm nervous if I'm not going to do it right because it's going to blast out all these clients like some terrible email. And they're like, don't worry, we'll do it for you. And I'm like, okay, it's done, right? And then I go back to dealing with clients. My automations are done, and like. The hacks on Follow Boss are endless. Like based on automations, all of that, like Allison gave us our biggest hack that we use. Like we just have an automated birthday email that goes out. And how many people are like, oh, that's great. Like you remember. And I'm like, yeah, every year I remember your birthday, right? But, and you just get those touch points that everybody kind of forgets. Like that's why you want to CRM.
I don't know how people live
obviously are leveraging a ton of software. Even though you don't love social media, you love the new age of how we can leverage technology in our business. Absolutely. To make it easier for ourselves. I know like you've always been kind of on the cutting edge. I remember you were involved with the first Meta REIT a couple of years ago there. Yeah. What is the next thing in real estate that you're really excited about? Like, is there something like on the horizon or that you've just started working with that's like a software or that you know about that you're like, guys, you've got your CRM mastered? For those of us like me and Emma that have our CRMs mastered, is there something else you're using that like you're like, this is awesome, or it's coming down the pipeline that like you're really excited about?
Yeah, I got it. I'll give you like a little snippet and then we'll shut at the Buzz conference because it's really going to be launched as a keynote with Richard Silver there. But there's a gentleman out there named Raz Zohar. He's started a company called Mave, or a software platform called Mave. He approached me a few years ago with literally like a whiteboard of ideas. Nothing's been created. And I think he got 15 minutes into his pitch, and I'm like, all right, I'm in. And so Mave is an AI software that we've been piloting at PSR for the better part of a year now. And it's starting to roll out into other brokerages and things like that. So it's not a PSR only initiative, but we were lucky enough to kind of test the waters. Started as a marketing platform, kind of like an AI run Canva is how I'll explain it to everybody. At PSR, we have a phenomenal marketing department, but our agents really use that marketing department. So the one thing you don't want as a realtor is lag, and you don't want 3 to 5 days of turnaround on your stuff. And so Mave is kind of integrated, not replaced our marketing department, but integrated with it with an AI Canva style where all of our agents, branding, templates, everything that's been created goes into the software. And they can now, rather than having to actually use like a Photoshop or Canva and build out all their own things, the click points of like change your photo, change your information, all of that's there. And they can change it themselves manually really easily, but they can also talk to it and start to order like, hey, use template 1 for property at 1 Forest Hill, and it'll make all of your marketing materials for you, which has been awesome to use. And then the next evolution, which is going to get launched at Buzz, is, I don't actually think it has a name yet. I named it myself for me. It's like the Realtor Companion. So I think a lot of people are scared of technology and specifically AI because how is it going to replace me, right? And in real estate, you have like 2 camps of people. One are the very pro AI and let's replace all these realtors. And the other one that are like very anti-tech or anti-AI of like nobody will replace that personal relationship, right? And personally, I think it's somewhere in between. I don't think anybody's going to replace a personal relationship, or at least until we're all used to like having robots in our home as part of our family. Like it's just not going to happen. And I think a lot of people do not trust software to necessarily take analytics of data and translate that into decisions for themselves. But the one thing that AI will always be better at all of us then is taking information and analyzing it super quick and translating it. So this next part of the technology is a companion. One, it just helps the realtor with everything rather than replace them. So one, you get a lot of information. You want to analyze it quick, like in that showing with your client, text the buddy and it'll spit back to you. You have on your docket today 5 different clients, 15 to 20 homes between all 5 clients. You're not going to remember every previous sale in every school district, and you don't want to walk in with like 40 papers highlighted like we used to do. You're in the house, client asks you like, hey, what was the previous sale of the house 3 doors down? Oh, let me check real quick. And I don't have to log into MLS and have that awkward 10-minute silence where you're like in a home and they're wandering around and you're trying to gather info. Ask your buddy, and right away it responds in a text and give you previous sale, school district. And like, I'm just giving surface level, like Raz will go into it, but it's even things I was testing it last week. And I'm like, okay, my clients are a family of 4. Would this home work for them? And it's like, yeah, actually, this is the school that's rated at this. It's 4 bedrooms. There's an extra bedroom in the basement if they stay there long enough till teenage. Like, it's really giving you a lot of that where you can take that information and go to your clients and do a lot more with it. Where I find that, like, you know, a common theme amongst realtors is we only have 24 hours in a day. So if I'm spending all day like searching MLS and getting this information and doing this, I only have so many hours to translate that to my clients. And then I'm left with only so many hours to prospect new clients. And this just gives you way more client facing time and takes away a lot of that back end. And that's like my long rant.
Sounds like a huge time hack.
Yeah.
Sounds like a huge time hack. I mean, like the amount of time looking at school rankings, and yeah, love it.
And it just refocuses the realtor. I think that's where it is, right? Like, sure, I should know all the school districts in my neighborhood. Like, I absolutely should, but I forget where the borders are, and now they change them every year and whatever. And at the end of the day, buyer and seller, do you really care if that's the knowledge I know versus like I know about your market and how to sell it and my marketing is on point? No, like, you want me to get you the most amount of money or save you the most amount of money. Anybody can Google the school. So time hack, and it just takes away those like little things that sometimes make a realtor look silly because they don't have that answer on the tip of their tongue. And it gives you back that professionalism. And now you just focus on the stuff that your clients really want you to focus on.
Does it pull the data from like property line or geo or all of them? Okay. Okay.
I'm not going to tell you where because I'm just going to make it up and I'll lie and then
yeah. No, that's totally fine. The
but no, like all over,
just a lot of places.
Yeah, no, but it's all legit. Like he's had meetings with Trab and all. Like it's a very legitimate, recognized thing. It's not like pulling it. It's not something where you get a disclaimer at the bottom, like, well, this is from 2020 and it might not be accurate. Like it's real, right? Yeah. And we've been testing it with real properties in a real time. And like the running joke Raz has with me is, come in today and please try and break. And like, that's my job. I break the tech, right? But then it's good because then they improve from there. So all joking aside, like it's an awesome tech. We're all going to hear about it at Buzz Conference because we know everybody's going to be tuned in to that. And they'll roll it out. You'll get from the founder's lips, not from mine. Richard Silver has a way of just like making everything sound amazing and classy. So we'll get that. And then I bet like Q2, you'll really see Mave, at least on the Toronto board and like the surrounding areas, roll out and we'll go from there, see from there.
It's really cool. I think that even the Canva thing like is a huge
it's cool.
It's a huge opportunity to preset templates.
It's incredible.
But doesn't that kill a lot of like brokerage offerings? Like, isn't that what the agency offers? Like, come to the agency. We have a back end where you can plug and play your marketing.
We'll talk about PS. We'll talk about PS. But no, like really, it's funny. Like I was kind of, I will tell you that.
Sorry, controversial.
No. Our marketing department was very much like, what are you guys doing and bringing in? Like, are you going to be here next year? And it's really like AI. It's just allowed them to do so much more because now like the templates are more or less created by our in-house marketing because every agent, like we have a whole thing. You become a new realtor at PSR, your year 1 or year 20, you're going through a whole brand audit, like from fonts, like that's included in joining PSR. So you get either new branding created or updated ones or whatever, and marketing still holds and touches that. But then they put it into the software. So if you want a feature sheet, you can just bang out a feature sheet. You don't have to wait. So something agents love to do is like have a week or 2 weeks between when our photos are taken and when we go to market. But we know realistically, sometimes it's like 48 hours. Like this needs to get out. We need to go to market. We just bought the other property. So I don't want my clients to miss out on a weekend or their timeline because they need 3 days for me to create a feature sheet, get it printed, get it there, right? So my template's already done. All I have to do is text Maeve, be like, hey, here's the photo link, and bang, bang, bang. And then it automatically sends it to a printer. Like the software's already got its preferred printers. And then without me doing anything, my credit card's in there. So I just sent it a photo link. It created a feature sheet, sent it to the printer, charged my credit card, had it delivered to the property or my address, and I'm on the market the next day. So our marketing department actually ended up loving it because now they can focus on bigger picture things, like bigger pitches, development pitches, things like that. And a lot of the individual stuff's taken care of.
You better hope you don't send nudes by accident. That'd be a big problem.
I mean, it'd be an interesting feature sheet, right?
Yeah. Best feature sheet in the business. Hey, a good way to go viral. Yeah. Good way to go viral. You talk about your buddies.
What the fuck is going on here?
And I'm sure it'll happen. There is a little, I think, a fail-safe. You have to approve your preview, but yeah, no, it means
imagine you didn't, and it was also set up to automatically mail out. You know, right? Like, and the printer's like, what the hell? But I'm just gonna mail it. This is what they asked for.
Next time Raz asked me to break it, I now know what I'm doing.
There you go. The printer is also AI. It just goes right to the end user. Yeah, beautiful.
That's so good.
No,
that's so good.
It's gonna be awesome. He's gonna talk about it at Buzz on the keynote, and then we just filmed a demo with him like last week, so that's gonna be played. And and you have, like I said, brand new agents out the door. This is the best tool to get them started. And then even realtors like Dorian, who you guys had on, he's using this now. It's like helped him grow the team, deal with all the luxury offerings. So it's really not basic functionality, basic templates. Like you can really hit some of the best real estate in the city with it. It's just another tool that we actually need versus forced on us.
We'll bring it to the team. I'm excited about it.
I'll make a little personal intro for you after.
Yeah,
I've got a question going full circle though.
Yeah.
So obviously you're into technology. Obviously, like you're into like agents being able to time hack, save a ton of time. It's obvious because you think it's important that they focus on the things that we're great at as realtors. With all of the, social media and technology that comes out, do you think that there's like a skill set that you think is really important for realtors that's kind of been lost in the mix, kind of forgotten about, that a lot of realtors lack out there right now?
I do. I mean, you guys can laugh at me because I don't shut up, but like, I think that's kind of it. Like, a lot of realtors have lost that gift of gab because they can either do it through text, do it through email, do it through AI. And then it gets into like that listing presentation, and just like the sweat starts coming and the stuttering starts happening. Right. And it's like, and you know your stuff. It's just, you don't have enough opportunity to build the confidence to be in front of people. So I definitely think that's fallen off. And one of the things that's like fallen off in training is like this role playing, right? Like, back when I started, there was a lot of role play training, which kind of faded out because nobody ever wants to do it. They think it's silly, but it works, right? It gets
we take it even one step further than role play. We make it even tougher on them. We love to do what we call game tape, which we review all of their calls.
Incredible. That's incredible, right? Like that's actually
they're under pressure, because
that's like professional sports teams analytics. Like, that's really good.
That's where it comes from. Yeah.
But that's awesome. And then, I mean, I've even had things where I've sent realtors, like, this is a long time ago, but to Toastmasters, like, go take a course, and who cares what you're talking about? Learn to give a speech and learn to talk in front of 2,000 people and not give a shit. Right. And I kind of think that, like, that's been, I'll call it like a skill set that we've lost without knowing. So yeah, but also one that's relatively easy to build back up if you want to focus on it.
Do you think it's just like they focus on what's kind of behind the camera more so because there's less rejection and it's less scary?
Yeah, I think there's two things. One, there's less rejection. Two, I think with technology, I used to have to go pitch for every piece of business, like even have buyer consult meetings in person. Now, a lot of times clients are just like, email me your proposal. Let me know what you think it's worth, right? So you have less opportunity to actually do that. It's sometimes not to the realtor's fault, but it's harder to get in front of people to actually get there. But yeah, I think like rejection is definitely part of it. And then I think with so many tools, and I'll kind of blame social media to go back to the beginning why I don't like it, is realtors and a lot of businesses have lost track of what they're trying to do. There's like a viral clip going around, talk about hating social media while referencing something on social media, but where it's kind of said like, right, but it's kind of said like, and I'll paraphrase, and it's not original, but you want to make money today, do the money making activities, right? Like doing a TikTok dance and getting, like, my favorite line is, a business card so thick that nobody can hold it, whatever, and branding and building out your new social, like, that doesn't fucking make you money, right? You want to make money, talk to people. Get in front of people. Yeah. If you need money today, go talk to 20 people today. After you've spoken to 20 new people, then go fuck around with your website and your business cards and your whatever, right? Because that's what's going to bring you in. And so it's something that, like, I preach all the time, brokerage team, realtors, I have no idea who they are, because I think that's where you'll also build your skill set back of talking to people. Like, that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah. Well, you also said something. You said, sorry, what was the gent's name that created Mave again?
Raz. So
Raz. Yeah. You said, Raz told me to use the software and until I break it, or try and break it, right? Yeah. And one of my mentors told me very recently that, and I'm not into fucking race cars, but so I'm probably going to fuck this up. But he basically said, there was a race car manufacturer, and they were trying to figure out how to make the fastest race car. And the guy's like, everybody else is tweaking all these little knobs and like doing all this shit to try and make it faster. And the guy who ended up creating the fastest race car put a fucking brick on the accelerator, went to lunch, came back, saw what was broken, fixed that thing, tossed the brick back on, let the thing run until the next thing broke. And like, we don't do that. We're so afraid of making a little mistake, like this little error, right?
You know,
and it's like, go full force, see what the fuck breaks. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Fix that little thing, break it again, and all of a sudden, you had the fastest race car.
Listen, I jumped into the cottage market to sell cottages. I had no idea how that was going to go or how that worked or anything about that. Like, my intro into that was, I had family, my wife's family was on the lake. They had bought a cottage. My wife and I would go there as if it was ours, like, fell in love with that lifestyle. Little shitter bungalow came up for sale down the shore. I'm like, okay, we're like literally doing paperwork to buy it as we're canceling our honeymoon on the other side so that we can afford to buy it. And I did one Instagram post to go back to social media of like, now in cottage country, and I got 40 messages. And out of the 40 messages, we ended up turning over 4 transactions. But I remember sitting there with those 40 messages being like, what the fuck did I just do? Because I don't know how to do this and I'm going to screw it up. Right. So I went to like a mentor, somebody that I know in cottage country. I'm like, here's the clients I have. Let's split all this business from the get-go, like out the door, so you can train me on this and let's go full speed. And the first thing he said to me was, I'll be here, but I'm letting you do it so that you can fuck it up. Because if you just watch me, you're only going to learn 60, 70% of it. If you make that critical mistake, I'll make sure it doesn't kill the deal. Like, I'll be here to support you, but that's really what's going to teach you. And like, that's how I learned about shore road allowance and septics and like water testing. You know, you find out all of a sudden you're about to buy a cottage on a property that's got a dirty, or a property on a lake that's dirty. And you're like, whoa, like, and it's just by going. And that was kind of the mentality. And I think the best training and coaching I've ever resonated with was like, you know, I'll give you a leash and I'll help you out, but like, you go out and do it yourself versus, don't say anything, stay in the background and copy what I do. Right.
But here's the, like, going back to the car analogy, I think your success there was though that like you already knew how to drive a freaking car, right?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you went to cottage country and now you're driving an electric car. So it's different. There's some different parts on it. It accelerates differently. It brakes differently, so on and so forth. But you were still driving a car and figuring out how to drive that car a little bit along the way. So you focused on what you know to do that sells real estate, which you said earlier. Agents these days love to just distract themselves with stuff that doesn't sell real estate that makes them feel busy. But you 100%. Still focused on what sold real estate.
100%. And I mean, my whole thing was like, I know how to drive a car. I just want to make sure I don't drive it into a wall. But that was right. But that was like, that was it. And kind of nailed it. And now it's funny where like my anxieties in the business don't come from, hey, I need to do more of these like money making or client focused activities. They're kind of like, okay, that day just went by. I didn't post on social today. And my anxiety is like, am I falling behind all these people that are like so social focused? And the first thing that kind of light bulb for me was once you can see social media versus production. I feel like that's the best like reporting we can do.
If only that was public access.
Right? Like, I mean, I don't even know like if I'm allowed to make it public, but like that, and you're like, okay, like let's refocus here. There are the one-offs, right? There are the people that like nail both of them. But for the bulk of it, a lot of the agents that have time to do a lot of these, you know, we'll call it TikTok dance activities all day long are because they're not focused in front of clients. And now my anxiety even comes like my competitive edge of trying to keep up with that. And so the easy thing is leverage all this technology we're using and try and go that route versus taking away client facing time. Right.
So what if there's one skill set, like I'm an agent, I'm listening to this right now, and you're like, there's one skill set that you could acquire that will provide you the highest amount of leverage. What do you recommend that they do?
It's the one thing I'm still trying to work on. 2 years, one mouth, right? Like, listen. I even had a showing this morning where I was on the buy side. The other realtor actually worked at PSR. We're trying to do something off market together. As soon as we left, the showing went really well. I picked up the phone call. I'm like, did you hear that? Did you hear what they said? The language, right? Because that's where you know not to overspeak or what to move on or what clients are really focused on, what's important to them. And I find this is why like I hate doing listing presentations because I find a lot of listing presentations, agents come in and like, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, hear all about me, here's all about my brokerage. And it's like information overload where we kind of go in and it's not a science. Like we don't get every single listing we pitch, but we go in and we're like, hey, like, sure, this is a little bit who we are, but like, who are you? What do you want? Why are you selling? What's your goal? And then give us 48 hours to create a proposal for you, like actual real strategy that's catered to what's important to you versus coming in and telling you, you know, you should hold back for multiples. You should list at this price. You like maybe that doesn't work for you, right? And so I've always had that problem where like you can tell from this podcast I talk too much, but 2 years, one mouth.
We've had a lot worse.
I was gonna say like pick up on what people say. Yeah, so pick up on what people say, and you'll go far.
I love it. We always wrap up. I know we're coming to the top of the hour here. I guess top of the half hour. But we always, for sure, absolutely. But we always finish with, one resource that has helped you. That is like a free public resource, or I mean, it could be paid, like a book, course, YouTube channel, podcast, anything like that. Is there anything that you would love to share with our audience that has had a big impact on you that is easily accessible for them to have access to?
Like for me, I think it's been it's been other realtors, like not having an ego about it. I have, I can shut them out, but I have a few realtors like Lahav Resnick at Forest Hill, Adam Stern, Mike Switzer, Eric Kuzian, like a lot of people that I wanted to go work with or work for that have been, that step above me or that much longer in the business. Like they're my resources, right? I still call them now. And it's funny, like, especially with Adam Stern, what I'm doing at PSR now was somebody that we all looked up to when he was doing it. And I still call him and he jokes with me about it. Like Lahav Resnick was at Forest Hill, was probably one of my first him and Mike Switzer were one of my first real mentors in the business. And by that, we're not just like, yeah, come join our brokerage. It's great. But we're put me in my place a little bit, like cut my ego down. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to focus on. And that I could relate to, that we're not like, we're all salespeople, but we're not salespeople. They're genuine. So I think my biggest resource, which is usually free, like find the good ones out there, connect with them. Anybody that's been in the biggest business long enough realizes that we all have different networks. We're not a threat to each other. We're a lot stronger if we collaborate as a team. And so to build up like the next generation or other realtors to have that strong skill set is just going to benefit our entire industry. So there's a ton of like self-help books and podcasts and all sorts of stuff that I listen to. Like that's how we connected. I listen to you guys, right? And I just think like you're an awesome resource in the industry. But for me, it's been mentors. Like that's end all be all.
Love it. Getting back old. That's getting old school. We haven't got that. That's the first time we've gotten that answer. And I think it's,
but it's true, right? Like we all have, like, even if it's not the formal coach, we all have somebody that we like bounce things off of. And I have it in my personal life too. I'm just not going to embarrass those people, but like we just have people that it's very hard to navigate anything in life alone.
Yeah. Dude, in real estate, they're always like other people's money. How do you get ahead? And then we don't think about other people's knowledge, other people's knowledge you can get for like, you can get it for free as long as you got a good enough, or you're persistent enough, like you were with the listing. But nonetheless, I've learned a lot about you in this podcast. And I think that is one thing that you're a fucking action taker. And that's what I appreciate about you, because you're talking about being in the industry for 15 years, staying on top of keeping your business organized, taking action on the CRM, understanding things about, systematizing your business, leveraging AI, using the secret hack of support for these technology. You're doing all of the right things. And it's just like, fucking keep doing what you're doing, because you're an action taker and you're one of the good ones, man. You're one of the good ones.
I know, I appreciate it. I think the biggest thing is accountability too. Like why I love working with a team is not to have this ego of like we have a team. We're all partners. We all work together. We're listings together. Just happened to be that I joined the industry 5 years before, whatever. But we're all partners and we keep each other accountable. And I think everything I do ends with accountability to the brokerage, to realtors that we train, to our own team, to ourselves. And if you keep genuine accountability to yourself and the people around you, then it motivates you to do all these things. It's not as hard to find the technology and the hacks and whatever, because you need to do it, right?
Awesome. This has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time. We're going to have to do it again because I feel like there was even more to unpack. But, I love every episode because we get some different nuggets. There was a ton of nuggets in here today. And I love that, like, you took it back old school. Guys, go get a CRM.
Please. Hey, before we wrap up,
not for us, for you. Yeah.
Where can they find you before we wrap up? Where can they find you?
So you can find me chisvingroup.com, at Joshua Chisvin on Instagram. Just shoot me a text, DM, whatever. Like I'm super accessible. I do have a private social media account, so you can like our public one's Chisvin Group, but that's a whole other episode too we could talk about. But yeah, find me there. I'm accessible. I'd love to talk with everybody in the industry, and thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Ciao.